Hi, and welcome to the series where we build real web application with React and Node.js. So at last, we are ready to implement actual features for the application itself. So in this episode, in this session, we're going to start by building our user collection of books. And it's going to be quite interesting because we will have a little bit of a complex UI stuff. So let me show you the overview of what we're going to build in several sessions, in the next several sessions. So here you can see what we want to have. So we want to build the empty dashboard first. So right now it's too empty, there's nothing there. So what we want to add is the top navigation bar so we can navigate around the site, and also add new book call to action button. So when a user has no books in the collection, we display this button. Otherwise, we'll have the collection itself. So when a user clicks on this button, we go to the new route, add books/new, for example. And here, where the interesting parts come in, we'll have this search form, and the search form will be just one field, and user types in it, and we making the search. We don't want user to type it by yourself, by photo, the cover, etc. What we want to do is to fetch this data from Goodreads. So that's what we're going to implement a little bit later. We're going to search for books via Goodreads API and come back with the results. And here it's going to be not just a simple search, but the drop down, the autocomplete field. And we will populate it with variants depending on the search query. And when a user clicks on one, selects one of the books, we display this form and populate it with data. Here at the cover, we have the cycling cover button. So each book could have several covers, and this is the way for user to select one he likes. So today we're going to focus only on client-side stuff. So before we begin, I have a couple of announcements. So the first one is this particular series will be published twice a week on Tuesdays and Fridays, starting next week. And starting next week as well, I will launch new mini series. And what topic would I cover? I have no idea. That's going to be a surprise. But leave your comments below about the topics that you want me to cover, what your interest lies into, so I will take note of them as well. Another thing, you'll notice that I try new things here in this particular session with the layout of the editor and other stuff. So let me know what you think about this, whether you like it or not, or whether you prefer the previous way of doing things. Also, I want to thank my patrons. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you for posting in the forums, in private community. It's awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate it. So let's get started. So we're going to start with this top navigation stuff. So for that, let's go to our React code. So as you can see here where I changed the layout. So here I have the editor when I'm working with React application, and here I have the live reloading browser. And now here in dashboard we have nothing, blank page, nothing here. So we want to fix it. So first of all, let's go to app.js file here, and I'm gonna hide this sidebar so we have a little bit more space. I do not use usually sidebar when I develop. So here, right at the top of the UI container, I'll add top navigation component, and I'm gonna import it from components, let's say navigation, because maybe we will have several other components to navigate around our books, like by tags or something like that. But that's gonna be a top navigation stuff. And let's create one. So we'll go to components, navigation, top navigation.js. That's going to be a function component. We do not need to have state or something like that here. And we're going to use menu semantic-ui component. So let's import menu semantic-ui React. So here in this menu, let's add a secondary and pointing. That's just the styling of the menu. Inside we'll have menu items, so that's how you can read about all of this in semantic-ui documentation. So we'll have item, we call it dashboard, and then we'll have the right side menu, so we'll define another menu here, menu.menu, and the position of this menu is going to be right. And inside of this, we'll have the drop down with the user avatar on top of it, where we can log out actually. So let's start from this dashboard first. We want it to be a link. And in semantic-ui React components, we have this as property, and we can define that we want it to be as link, and we'll import link from React Router DOM. Okay, and now we can pass to as we do for a link dashboard, like this. So now we have it right here, and in menu here, what we want to have is the drop down. So we'll have drop down, and inside of this drop down, we'll have something, drop down item actually. So let's define it right away. Drop down item, and that's going to be logout. And in drop down itself, we'll have trigger. And inside of this trigger, we want to define image, avatar, and we need to provide source. And to make things simpler, we'll just use Gravatar for emails. So user have emails, we just can generate Gravatar URL and use it here. Gravatar URL, and we pass user.email to it. So for that, we need a couple of things. First of all, we need this Gravatar URL. So let's import it, Gravatar URL from Gravatar-URL. So this is the library that we're going to use. So let's go to terminal, and here I'm in Bookworm React, and I'm just run yarn add Gravatar URL. And let's go back to here. So the next thing is we need to have user. Also, we need to import drop down or some component from semantic-ui and image. So now to get this user, let's define it in prop types. So user is just a shape, and what we are interested in here is HTML. And now we need to get it, and we get it from by connecting this element. So we'll connect this element with map state to props, and also we'll need to have logout as well. Okie dokie. So here I need to import prop types. Now let's define map state to props, and here it's going to be user state.user. And logout, I'm going to import a logout from actions auth. And I need to add this logout right here as well as a function. And now here where I have this logout, I'm just going to add on click logout. And I deconstruct it here, logout. Okay. Look at that, we're almost there. So we have logout, but it doesn't work because I forgot to add here the drop down menu. Drop down that menu, and inside of this menu we'll have items. So it's gonna reload and we'll see. Yeah, much better. So we have dashboard here, and we have logout link here. But we have a problem with ESLint. It doesn't like that logout is already declared in the upper scope. So we have logout here and we have logout here. So you can add ignore for this ESLint rule, or you can use something like this. You'll just input all actions as actions here, and in dispatch you'll define that it is actions.log out, and that will fix it. So now when we try to log out, we'll have a problem. Let's have a look. Log out. Nothing happens. Why is that? Why is that? I expected error, to be honest. So have I added drop-down menu on click? Oh yeah, log out. So now we're gonna have an error. So log out, and we have an error. So let's have a look here. Yeah, we have an error because of user email is not defined. So this top navigation stuff right here, that we have right here, I want it to be visible only for authenticated users. So if you're not authenticated, if this is a public page, that will be just the home page, the marketing page, and login, logout. There is no need for the top navigation bar in these particular cases. So let's implement this, and there are a couple of ways to achieve it. The first one that I think we're going to go with is just to connect this app component and get is authenticated and make this thing optional. Or you can just delete it from here, and in every component that need to have top navigation, you just place it there. So both ways are pretty good. So let's connect this component. So I'm gonna have connect. Here I have connect, map state to props. I do not need to have anything here. So now I'm going to define map state to props, is authenticated, is going to be state user, let's say email. So if we have email, we consider is authenticated. So now we need to add it here as well, is authenticated to be Boolean. And we add it here as well, is authenticated. And now we can use it right here, is authenticated, then we render this top navigation stuff. Yep, we've been redirected back to homepage. Nice. So let's log in, test. Okay, and we have Gravatar displayed to us, and now we can log out. Log in, log out. Nice. So this is the default image for Gravatar if the user doesn't have any kind of Gravatar there. Okay, so now we have the top bar. Nice. Top navigation. So the next step is to display here the call to action in case user doesn't have any books. And to do that, we need to define books. So let's go to root reducer. And here we'll add new reducer books, and we'll add it here as well, books. And let's define in reducers books.js. And here I'm gonna define reducer. Done. So in this application, we're going to use normalized state, and that means that all our entities will be stored not as collection like in arrays, but as objects like this. So we will have something like ID 111, and then the object itself, and then ID 222, and then object itself. Okay, so this way it's more like a database, and it's very easy to reference entities in other parts of the database. But the problem is that usually and state will be normalized, so each entity will be separate. So if we have even like book could have many tags, for example, we do not embed this into the books, but we will have separate tags entity. And that means that we need a way to combine all of this for our components, and that's where selectors will come up. And we'll actually use selectors right now in a second, because we on a client in our components, usually we want to have arrays, not objects. So let's go to dashboard page right here, where we want to have something like this right here. We want to check if Sublime, you've been too smart. So right here, what we want to have is something like, hey, if we have books length to equal 0, then we'll have some kind of call to action like add book CTA. That's a terrible name. Okay, so we want to have books. Length is the method on array. So we expect, and usually we work with, in components, we work with arrays because it's much easier to iterate through them, for example, and they are supported by React out of the box. Okay, so here we'll add books, and instead of doing this state books, we can't do that because books right now here is actual object and we want an array, and we even can specify here that books is basically an array of objects of particular shape, like for example title. Okay, so we are not going to use this thing. Instead we're going to use selector, all books selector, and we pass state into it. So now where do we store these selectors? You can store it any way you like, as usual in JavaScript. You can store them in separate files, you can store them in one big file, or you can store them with reducers. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna store them with reducers because we're crazy. So I'm gonna add here books as well. So I'm gonna import this all books selector from reducers books, like this. So of course I need also to add book CTA, but we're gonna develop it in a moment. So now I'm not gonna need reduce anymore. So we have books here. So let's add selectors. And the first one, export const selector, is gonna be books selector. So it takes state and it returns state books. So that's basically the books hash that we have here in our reducer. So, and the second one is going to use this selector and convert it into an array. So this way we can compose complex selectors using simple ones. Okay. So we'll have export const all books selector, and that's going to be create selector. And create selector, the method that is provided to us by reselect library that we're going to use to compose our selectors. And this method takes any amount of arguments, and each argument is the selector, so books selector. And the last argument is an actual new selector that you compose from them. So it takes books hash because we have books selector. If we have something else here, for example, tags selector, so the second argument of this function will be tags. But we have only one for now. And what we're going to do, we're going to convert it into an array. So we'll get only values of this object. So we'll have object.values, and we pass books hash there. So now we need to import this create selector. So let's import create selector from reselect. And of course we do not have reselect. So let's yarn add reselect. Okay. So now we have selector. Let's go back to dashboard page. It should be an array, and we check the length, and if it's 0, then we have this add book CTA. So let's add book CTA from CTAs add book CTA. Let's create one. CTAs add book CTA.js. That's a functional component, and that's gonna be a card. So we'll use card. This card is gonna be centered, and inside of this card we'll have card content with text align center, because we want everything to be centered basically. And inside of this card content we'll have card header with some motivating message like add new book. And in the content we want to have huge plus button. So we'll have image, or not image, icon with name plus circle. And the size of this, we want to be massive. Massive is the biggest possible size for the icon. So now we need to import all of this. So we'll import card, we'll import icon from semantic-ui React. And here we go. We have a new book. We have button, but it's not centered. And that's the problem. We need to update our semantic UI because right now this version is not supporting it that we use. If we go to package here, you can see that we use semantic-ui React 72, but the latest version is 73, and this bug is fixed there. So let's go back to terminal here again, and let's just yarn add semantic-ui React. So this will update all the dependencies as well. Now let's reload the page. Something went wrong. Text align on div. Okay, I think that I probably need to restart React. Yarn start. Yarn start. And we reloaded. Yes, now it's good. We have a new book right in the middle. So this icon actually should lead us to the new route. So we're gonna use link for this to books./new. I'm gonna close it, and I'm gonna import link from React route to DOM. So now it has this nice blue color. So now we can go there, and we need to construct our main theme. Okay, so for that, let's go to application, to app.js. Let's add another user route. It points to books/new, and that's going to be new book page. So let's import it like a page, new book page. And let's create one in components, pages, new book page.js. There's going to be a class component because it will have state. And in this state, it will have book. By default, this book will be null. So what we're going to do, we're going to have two subcomponents to this one. So we'll have the search form and the book form. So in search form, when user chooses the book, we'll populate this book here in the state, and we'll pass it from this component, from this form, to the book form. And this way we're going to populate the data in the book form. Exciting? Yeah, I think so.